Hello, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. I hope you're doing well. We have got a lot to get into this morning. Some quite I wouldn't say it's shocking to me, but I think we've got some quite shocking training ground admissions from the manager, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, from his own mouth that I think will surprise people in relation to how the club is run. Also, Kounde and Jadon Sancho stories, as well as develops around Wan-Bissaka and Jamie Carragher talking about David de Gea again on Sky Sports last night. So loads of good chat to get into this morning. Remember to download the Flick app in relation to chat. This is like our United Stand app. You can chat 24/7 on there. We've got nearly 15,000 on there now. 24/7. Polls, transfer chat, download it. It's free on Apple and Android. Links in the video description and join the chat there. Lots of stuff going on there, as I said, 24/7. But I don't know where to start this morning. There are so many good stories to get their teeth into. I think the Solskjaer comments about training. I think Carragher talking about De Gea again is ridiculous. But we'll start off with the story that I saw yesterday coming in from Kicker via Sport Witness about a Jadon Sancho transfer coming and that Dortmund are totally realistic of the fact that they're not going to get the 120 million euros they wanted last year, and now even 70 million euros is being quoted, which is around 60 million pounds. And the feeling is that not many clubs can even afford to pay 60 million pounds this summer because of COVID, but Manchester United would be one of those clubs. What I would say quite calmly about this is that Manchester United are not going to buy two players for 70 million euros. And there is also another story coming out of via Sport Witness from Spain that Manchester United would be willing to offer 70 million euros for Kounde. Well, look, let's call a spade a spade. Let's not live in a fantasy world. Over the last few years, Manchester United's net spend has been about 70 million euros. You've got two options. You've got Jules Kounde and you've got Jadon Sancho. And I tell you what, for all the love I have for Sancho and thinking what a great number 7 he would be and what a fantastic potential world superstar he is, we're Manchester United. We're not the Harlem Globetrotters. We need to build a football team. And as much as I like Jadon Sancho, we need a centre-back. And for me, every day of the week and Sunday, you sign Kounde. And that rhymes. And it works because we need a quality centre-back. I really like Sancho. And if United were Chelsea or Man City and we had the money to do both, I would do both. But actually, if I can be blunt, my priority this transfer window as director of football, which we don't have, would be centre-back Kounde, centre defensive midfield, somebody like a Declan Rice, and then a Jadon Sancho. So I'm spending 100 million before I'm even thinking about offering for Jadon Sancho. But what worries me about United, and what has worried me about United, and this is nothing to do with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we've seen this year after year after year. The constant at Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson left has been us and Woodward and the Glazers. Not Ollie, not the players. There's no player that's been here apart from De Gea and Jones that are here from when Sir Alex Ferguson left. The only constant at that football club are us and Woodward and the Glazers since Sir Alex Ferguson left. And over that time, my fear is that the Woodwards and the Glazers of this world don't actually know what's good for Manchester United Football Club. And I think they think, well, you know what? We've got to get one up on Dortmund. They played hardball last summer. This summer we're going to get the better out of them. We're going to take Sancho for about 70 million. High five, because we've saved 50 million. And everyone with a brain will go, well, look, Jadon Sancho's a fantastic signing, but you completely missed the point here. You're giving Solskjaer a player actually he doesn't really need. He needs a centre-back and needs a centre defensive midfielder. So look, I like Jadon Sancho, but this for me is a ship that has sailed and should be left in the sea or whatever port it's going to dock in, because that we are not going to spend 150 million pounds this summer. It wouldn't happen anyway. Manchester United wouldn't spend 150 million pounds. Even if the world was swimming in money, we wouldn't spend 150 million pounds. But the reality is, we're living in an uncertain world now, where budgets and funds are being cut all over the place. And the Glazers, you know what they're going to be like? Well, look, we've got to spend wisely. You can have 70 million to spend. Off trots Woodward and co to Dortmund to get Sancho. Comes back expecting a fanfare, and they'll probably get a fanfare. But next season we'll be going, the problem's the defence. The problem's the defence. I mean, scoring goals isn't massively a problem, but Maybe if Pogba went, there might be something we could do. But I am worried about us signing Sancho now, because it's not the priority as far as I'm concerned. You know, maybe people have a different opinion. Morning, Mark. Hope you're well. Is it just De Gea the media are going after, or are they talking about Lloris and Alisson as well? They've made mistakes too, says Rob Hatherley. I'm going to talk about that. Can't we buy both Kounde and Sancho and get Ramos for free by selling Pogba and Martial? Says Stratos. I mean, there are ways, Stratos, of creating a Sancho, Kounde and CDM signing, but it would take efficiency and competence of the level we've never seen at Manchester United in relation to transfers. If we had a really good director of football, we could sell Pogba, bring in Kounde, bring in Sancho, and bring in a CDM, whilst also removing people such as Mata and Matic and Lingard and Pereira, and raise around... Look, if you can raise 80 million, you can probably just about get Kounde, Sancho and a CDM, because if your budget, if you've got, say, if the club say you've got 70 million and you raise 80 million, you give yourself 150 million. You could probably just about get 3. Just about. It would be very difficult though. But you'd need competence and efficiency that we're never going to have at this football club. So there is a decision to be made. It's a bit like Ollie's. We're going to do the preview this afternoon for the Europa League. There is a decision to be made at Manchester United. And it's a bit like Ollie's decision this week. Is he going to prioritise the Premier League or is he going to prioritise the Europa League? And are Manchester United going to prioritise with their transfer budgets what we really need, or are they going to go after the glamorous signing they should have got last summer? And that's it with United. We're always reading last week's newspapers, aren't we? We're never in the now. We're always a year behind, and that's because of the incompetence of not having a director of football. So we'll see what happens. Mark, will you lose respect for Ollie if he doesn't push for the signings this summer? Need to hear him talking about it and not happy with the squad. Well, to be fair to Ollie, he has pushed for it. He said it in January that we are looking for players. But if they're not available now, we'll have to wait till the summer. A manager doesn't talk about wanting players if they don't want players. So I think that's an unfair criticism of Ollie. And as we know from anecdotes from Van Gaal and Mourinho, that they didn't get the players that he wanted. And I think we know from Solskjaer, he didn't get the players he wanted in the summer. He clearly didn't want Van der Beek. And I don't think he actually wanted Telles. I think Telles was maybe 3rd or 4th choice as well. So he doesn't get the players that he wants. So the eyes should be on the board there. Welcome to the Members Club, Ryan Whelan and Tyrone Ferris. Thank you very much for joining. You get your little badges next to your name. And NG Music says, I'm so sick of transfer rumours. Got to the point where I only believe it when they hold the shirt up. We are always a step behind, says NG Music. Well, just on that, I mean, it's not really Manchester United news, but it might just wind people up a little bit more. Alaba is expected to announce he's going to Madrid today. That would mean in the last week, Upamecano has been announced as a Bayern Munich centre-back. Alaba has been announced as a Real Madrid centre-back. And I would argue that Manchester United need a centre-back more than any of those. But apparently, according to Romano last week, Man United aren't going to decide which centre-back they want until a couple of months' time. Snooze, you lose. And I'm not saying we would have got Upamecano or Alaba because we're crap at negotiating. But that's 2 very good centre-backs off the market already. And suddenly you are looking at Kounde, who's injury-prone. You know, he is injury-prone. I do like Kounde, but it was, to be fair, we did it on the show the other night. I didn't realise how injury-prone Kounde is from Leipzig. If we buy him, very good player, but I will say it. Why are we buying a player with that injury record when he's that young? Kounde's the obvious choice, but we're going to price ourselves out of that, I think. Ed Caesar's drooling about a player and gets them when it's to it, says AKA. Sancho again, give me a break, says Vishal. And attacks wins your games, defence win your titles, Sir Alex Ferguson, says Jake Hope. Well, look, you know what? Would you sell Martial to fund Sancho, says Kieran? I don't know. I'd have to have a longer think than a few seconds on that one, because there's pros and there are cons, to be honest with you. Sancho's not a forward, is he? What if Cavani gets injured? Who's going to play up front? Greenwood potentially. I wouldn't want Rashford to play there. So that's the issue if you let Martial go. I mean, who's going to play up front? Because Cavani can't play every game. That would worry me. But look, you know what? Let's look at the issues right here, right now. Chelsea won last night. West Ham won last night. They're 4 points off second place, which is us. 4 points, and they play us in a couple of weeks. And looking at the way Chelsea are playing at the moment, and the way we're playing at the moment, I think, you know, they could beat us in a couple of weeks' time. And Newcastle didn't look like they were very good last night, but I guarantee they'll look good against us on Sunday. Our form at the moment, and I'm going to get more into this in the Europa League preview at 2 o'clock, because I think there's a number of things that need to be done. But in reality, let's call a spade again and say that we are in a position where we are under pressure now. I think for a long time we were like, oh, can we challenge City for the title? And suddenly, like that, we're looking behind us. We're now in a race for 4th place, because it's all right saying we're second and we're fine. Well, if West Ham are 5th and Chelsea are 4th and they're only 4 points behind us, in 2 weeks we could be out the top 4. And then the pressure's really going to build on Solskjaer. So he's got a lot to answer for this week. He's got a lot to do this week. And if he wants a job next season, and look, there's no guarantees in a job next season, but his job is not just about the next few weeks. Even if he survives this season, what's going to happen next year? Where's the progress? He's got to be banging on the door of Ed Woodward saying, look, Alaba's gone to Real Madrid. Upamecano's gone to Bayern Munich. I need more than a centre-back this summer. Why are you not getting a centre-back done? Doesn't need to be public, but done. Get it done. Get it ready to go. Because then you can work on something else and you can sort out what's... All you're going to do, Ed, is spend all summer pontificating about Paul Pogba, which if he goes, I lose a player. You get a bit of money to give to the Glazers, I lose a player. What are you doing and why is it not happening? It needs to be done. And that's if Solskjaer is here next year. But if he is here next year, he ain't going to last long next year with this squad either. So I tweeted it and I'll say it here. What are scouts doing to earn their pay? We couldn't find and buy Kounde last year for 25 million euros. We look naive, says Marin. I don't think there's a problem with Manchester United scouts. Pelestri from Uruguay is a good signing. Casido was scouted and the club decided no. There's plenty of evidence over the last few years that Manchester United's scouting system has unearthed really good talent that has been ignored. So I don't think it's to do with that. I think it's to do with the final piece of a transfer, which is the negotiation process. Even though Ollie didn't get the players he wanted, he's got good players that he's never even attempted to utilise properly. Favouritism is an issue, says Dana. And buy Kounde, buy Declan Rice, swap Pogba for Ronaldo and get Ramos on a free. That would be perfect, but with our board, we'll end up with Ings and Sancho, says Wayne Finnegan. I mean, yeah, that could happen. And Jack Birtles says, Harry Maguire lost us the game, 80 million down the drain. The board aren't going to buy anyone. We've heard of someone we don't need, says Jack Birtles. Well, look, I just want to bring this in about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Effectively, there was an interview that I touched on at the weekend with VG, which is a Norwegian outlet, and he was talking about, not being animated on the touchline and that some people, make idiots of themselves effectively by doing that. But more interestingly, I read it this morning that I think it was in the Manchester Evening News, quoting further quotes from Solskjaer. And look, this will come as a shock as what I'm about to say, but it's not a shock to me. But effectively, he said that I'm not the one who does the training. I've never said that I am the one who does the training. I always give credit to my coaches there. I'm the manager. So we know that Solskjaer's a good man manager, and that is not in question. I think even Ollie Outers would say he's a good man manager, and that the way he's restructured the club, the way he's removed people such as Fellaini and Sanchez over the years has been very, very good. And his man management is very, very good of those players that he, are in the favouritism group or whatever you want to call it. But to come out and basically said, oh, look, I've always said I'm not the one who's doing the training on the training ground. This really puts the ball literally in the hands of Michael Carrick, McKenna, Mike Phelan, and any other coaches that Manchester United have. Now, Sir Alex Ferguson did this, but Sir Alex Ferguson had some very, very experienced coaches that he brought in. Carlos Queiroz, Steve McLaren was brought in, Brian Kidd was experienced at the time he had him. Mullenstein, I believe, had done things elsewhere as well. I'm not 100% sure about Mullenstein's background, to be fair, so I wouldn't quote me on that. But our coaches are Mike Phelan, Michael Carrick and McKenna. Now, many of you have said this, and it got me thinking again. I've got no problem with any of those coaches. There are games where we've done very, very well. But McKenna's background is not elite. He's basically learning on the job at an elite club. The same with Carrick, because he's basically gone from sitting on the bench, playing for Man United, sitting next to Mourinho, to being a big coach with Ollie. Mike Phelan has got experience with Sir Alex Ferguson, but was out of the game for a long time after being relegated with Hull. I know he's in Australia. Where is the elite coach who's got top-level experience of modern-day football in the last 3 years that is at Manchester United? And Darren Fletcher's come in now, another inexperienced coach. I just think with Manchester United, and I'm not critical of any of those people, because we might win a title in 3 years with these coaches. And that's the thing about learning on the job. You can learn on the job and you can get better. But it is something that has been spoken about on this channel a few times, and I've seen it mentioned elsewhere. Why did we never bring in just one coach? One coach who maybe takes the place of McKenna or Carrick or Phelan, who is, in the last 4 years, a top elite coach, not a manager, a coach. And they could come from PSG, they could come from Monaco, they could come from Benfica, they could come from Leicester, who I don't even know their name, but somebody who's had success actual CV success as a coach on the training ground in the last 4 years that comes in with those people and gives us that knowledge and experience that I don't think we have on the face of it. I don't think Darren Fletcher, McKenna, Carrick and Phelan give you any of that in the last 4 years. Proper elite level coaching experience. I don't think they have that. And I know why Solskjaer's not done it, because he wants people who know the club. And that is commendable. These people know the club like the back of their hand, whether it's McKenna, Carrick, Fletcher, Phelan, they do. But we've heard rumours over the years of, especially on the Ollie years, that the training's not that good. And, if any of that's true, and I'm not saying it is, why did we never think about bringing a top level coach in? And we're not talking about manager here, coaching. And I think, sometimes the trouble is you talk about this when things are not going particularly well after a bad result at the weekend. But the trouble about when things go bad is it makes you think about things, about late substitutions, about not really changing from plan A to plan B in game, about playing the same way with the same limited players, the same centre-back partnership, the same CDMs. And, look, this is totally speculative, but it feels to me that Michael Carrick is trying to coach Scott McTominay to be the new Michael Carrick, but he's not going to be it. And it feels to me that maybe Darren Fletcher's having a word with Fred and trying to get him to be the next Darren Fletcher, and it's not going to work. It's like we're trying to put square pegs into round holes. And is that elite level coaching that we need? I mean, we need coaches that are going to look at the players we've got and get the best out of them. Van der Beek on the bench all the time. This is a Champions League semi-finalist who was a first teamer for Ajax and a Dutch international. How's about looking at the profile of that player and getting them into our team? How's about looking at Scott McTominay and going, the best football McTominay plays is in a more advanced position. Let's get him into that. Fred's not really a holding midfielder. Who's the holding midfielder we've got? Well, we need to buy one, but in the meantime, we need to get the best out of Matic. The centre-back pairing doesn't work. Harry Maguire hates the ball over the top. Lindelof hates physicality. Oh, there's a centre-back who likes the ball over the top and is physical. Eric Bailly. Let's get him into the team. But it feels like our coaching is just very rigid about what they think. We've got to do it this way, and this is how it's going to work. And even if that player doesn't fit, let's try and make them fit. And I don't think we're getting the best out of our squad, and I don't think we're getting the best out of our training. And I think that would have helped if we'd had an elite level coach, because Solskjaer admitting that he's not really the guy doing the training on the training ground throws the tactical level onto the coaches. And I look at those coaches like anybody does and go, well, they're just like Ollie. They're learning on the job. Maybe we should have had an experienced coach in there. And I think it would have helped Ollie. I think a director of football, an experienced director of football, there's so much inexperience at Manchester United. The coaching setup is inexperienced, the manager is inexperienced, and the director of football that we don't have, well, the negotiating board are inexperienced. Ed Woodward and Matt Judge, they're bankers. They're not football people. So we've got a lot of inexperience, and there's a real reluctance within that football club. And I'm not just talking about the Glazers or Ed Woodward. I'm talking about Ollie and the coaches here. There's a real reluctance, isn't there? On the face of it, there's a real reluctance to bring in experience. Everybody wants to keep hold of their pie and keep it with people that they know. We're not bringing an outsider in who might know what they're doing. Maybe Ollie and that lot don't want a director of football to come in and be experienced and tell them what needs to be done. Maybe that's why we keep employing ex-players, ex-mates, because it's like, well, I know them, they know the club, they're just as inexperienced as me. And, maybe that's what Woodward does. I'm not giving up any control over transfers to somebody who knows what they're on about. We might be Man United, the biggest club in the world, but let's act like Macclesfield Town, and let's act like a club that, we're not going to go for experience and specialism. Let's just keep it all in-house, because there is a distinct lack of specialism in that football club on the face of it. No director of football, no massively experienced coach in the modern game. Mike Phelan's experienced, but he's been out of football for a very long time. So, I don't know. Sal Martial to fund Sancho. Greenwood shadows Cavani next season. Then following season, we have an attack of Rashford, Greenwood and Sancho. Risky, though. Knowing the club doesn't make you a great coach, says Dayan. And morning, Mark. I'd rather have Tyrone Mings than Lindelof, says Mikael Roach. Well, you're still polishing two turds, aren't you? West Ham all of a sudden are now just 4 points away from us, says G-Man. Yep. Career mode is going out today as well. Interesting conversation there, though, and a lot of people getting involved. Please smash a like on the video. Hi, Mark. I know you're not in favour of Ollie leaving, but for how long can you tolerate his inexperience and naivety on the football field, says Sagar. Well, when I was talking about what I was just talking about then, I must admit there was a big... I've been quite chilled out recently. I'm not shocked that we drew with West Brom because I think this team is capable of doing those results. I won't be shocked if we don't beat Newcastle at the weekend. I won't be shocked if Sociedad play us off the park on Thursday. I think they'll be a technically better football side than us. But there are ways out. And May will be the answer. The great thing I always say, I said this in the November international break when a lot of people said they wanted Solskjaer to be sacked. I said I'm very relaxed because at the end of the day it's going to go one of two ways. It's going to go bad and he'll lose his job, or he's going to go well and will benefit. And it went really well. And I'd say the same now. We're still in a really good position. We're second in the league. There's a lot of pressure behind us. There's a big tournament kicking off on Thursday, which is going to make us have to play Thursday, Sunday, which is a nightmare. There's an FA Cup quarter-final in a month. There are opportunities there. We can't, this Harry Maguire thing of, everybody's against us. Total nonsense. I don't want that mentality. It's a weak mentality. If I was Solskjaer, I'd be in the dressing room saying there's a massive opportunity in front of us. It's going to be hard. Teams are coming at us from behind. But I believe in this squad. We're going to make changes. And this is what we're going to do. If he messes that up, and the players mess that up, and the club mess it up, then a change will have to happen. So for me, it's always about May. I still believe Solskjaer will be our manager next season, and I hope that he gets the backing he deserves, but he won't be the manager next season if we bottle the next 14 games. It won't happen. So I'm quite relaxed about what's going to happen. United need a CDM and a centre-back and move into 3-8, says Hadrian Wong. But I do get frustrated when I said what I just said there about how the setup of Manchester United is frustrating from top to bottom. And look, people like Gary Neville can't say 18 months ago this club is rotten from bottom to top and then say 18 months it's fine. It's not. A lot of the same things are still in place from where they were. And I think he said it when Mourinho was manager, so it's a little bit longer than 18 months to be fair. But there's a total lack of specialism in that football club, and it feeds onto the pitch as well. Have we got a specialist leader as captain? I don't think we have. Have we got enough leaders in that team? No. Have we got a specialist CDM? No. Have we got specialist centre-back partnership? No. Have we got specialist coaches? Probably not. Have we got a director of football? No. Have we got owners who specialise in winning trophies? No. Manchester United is an elite football club. It's one of the biggest football clubs in the world. It's got the best fan base in the world. But our football club within is nothing like that. It almost isn't worthy of the name Manchester United, the way that football club is run. And the reality is, I just don't know why we do it. It feels like it's mates rates. Feels like the Glazers, and look, this is only my opinion, it feels like the Glazers stick with Woodward because he helps them buy the club, when realistically they could get a specialist chief executive in who would get them more for their money and make them more successful as a team. There's a lot of coaches at that club who are ex-players or have come through the youth setup, and it feels like, let's keep it all in-house. There's not many clubs that do that anymore. There really aren't many football clubs that do that anymore. Certainly not in the Premier League. I mean, how many clubs just keep recruiting their coaches from within all the time? Or sticking with chief executives because they help them buy the club? Roman Abramovich hasn't got the same chief executive, has he? Well, he hasn't, because I know Peter Kenyon went from us to them, and he's not there anymore. So it's maybe Man City do, but Man City have been ridiculously successful, haven't they? So does Ollie pick a team to dominate the opposition positionally each week, or does he choose his favourites and hope they dominate, says David Harris? If we don't finish top four and Ollie goes, won't that affect our transfer plans, as the new manager might not want players Ollie has targeted, more instability? Yes, Salah, yes. I said it under Mourinho. Mourinho needed to be sacked, but the best case scenario was that he didn't get sacked because of all the upheaval, and it's another 3-year project again, isn't it? Did you think we were going to win the league a couple of years back with Mourinho, Zlatan and Pogba? I did. When Mourinho first came in, I thought we were going to win the league. Anyway, I want to bring this in, otherwise I'll forget. So look, Jamie Carragher last night on Sky Sports said that David de Gea needs to be dropped for 12 games and Dean Henderson needs to be given a run out in goal. Now, I actually like Jamie Carragher. At times, I prefer Carragher to Neville as a pundit, which is ridiculous because Gary Neville is a Manchester United legend in my mind. But we're talking punditry here, and I actually think Carragher is a better pundit than Neville sometimes because he speaks the the truth about Manchester United. Whereas, Gary Neville, Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, they'll talk about certain topics, but there's certain things they'll never do. Like, they don't really want to go in on Solskjaer or the English players. I understand why. But, Carragher can be a little bit more honest. But on this, I just feel again that there is. I don't know what David de Gea has done to Sky Sports. Has he unsubscribed and got a Spanish satellite in or something like that? Because Sky Sports are after. It feels like Sky Sports are after David de Gea. Before the game against West Brom at the weekend is a 5-minute article where I think Neville, Hasselbank, and Souness are all saying he needs to be dropped, which he didn't. And then after West Brom, we've got another segment on Sky Sports from Jamie Carragher saying he needs to be dropped. And I'm like, the thing that frustrates me about this, and I'm not going to get angry, the thing that frustrates me about this is that this is mainstream media watched by millions of people, a lot of which will be Man United fans, who watch that and go, you know what, I think Carragher's got a point. Let's drop De Gea. De Gea was man of the match on Sunday. And yet, 24 hours later, we've now got Man United fans on social media because they've listened to Carragher going, he's right, drop De Gea. He's just been man of the match and stopped us winning against West Brom. The people who cost us the win against West Brom are the same people that cost us the win against Everton. The centre-backs. And yet again, why is David de Gea being spoken about after a great performance against West Brom? Because they want to steer it away from Maguire and co again. I don't know. Is Maguire a producer at Sky Sports or something? Does he set the scripts? Because I cannot believe again, we are talking about David de Gea being dropped, especially after a man of the match performance. And on mainstream media again, what's going on? What is going on? And I tell you what, Carragher, how often do you watch Man United? Because I actually quite like your opinions, but to be going in on the keeper again, you're miles off. You're absolutely miles off. I don't get it. And the thing that frustrates me the most about it is not that it could potentially be a bias against foreign players. That might be the case. But the thing that bothers me the most is that it then hits social media and it then becomes the conversation again. And it's not the conversation. The conversation is centre-back and the midfielders. That's the issue with United. McFred and Maguire and Lindelof, they kill creativity and they cost us goals. It doesn't work. And that's not about individual players. It's about the midfield pairing and, more importantly, the centre-back pairing. But yet again, we're talking about De Gea. And I'm like, why are we talking about De Gea? Why is this even allowed? Who's the producer at Sky Sports? What prat is the producer there? How are you allowing that to be a conversation? He was man of the match 24 hours ago, and you're talking about him being dropped for 12 games. What? Who feeds this shit for them to talk about? Nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. And it does no favours to Manchester United fans or football club that we are now, again, talking about David de Gea in goal when he's got nothing to do with what the real issue is, when we know what the bloody issue is, when it's staring us in the bloody face. It's the centre-backs, and after that, it's the midfield. Isn't Martial out of form because he's played out of position? He prefers the middle, and isn't Van der Beek just like a new Mata? Says Roxy. Well, I think that's a very broad stroke to say that. I really do. I don't think that Van der Beek's anything like Mata. Maybe in his prime he could be, but Van der Beek's actually quite quick. Mata's not. Zed Jamie says, finishing second is the worst thing that can happen to Ollie because just like Mourinho, who will not be backed in the summer, only bothered about the Champions League, he will not get backed. If he doesn't get backed this summer, Zed Jamie, he'll be in exactly the same position next season. We will drop silly points next season around the start of the season, and the pressure for him to be sacked will come back again like it was there in the autumn and like it's coming now. I mean, look, it's not quiet now. It's not quiet now. I did the video last night. It's not quiet now about Ollie out. There are people out there now who are talking about Ollie out again. It's starting to build again. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I think it's wrong because I think we should just wait till May. But then again, I must say, it's not wrong really, is it? Because you can't just stay quiet about unacceptable performances. You can't stay quiet about lack of rotation. You can't stay quiet about lack of tactics. You can't stay quiet about favouritism over, common sense. Eric Bailly should have played over Lindelof at the weekend. It was the most obvious selection ever. But I'll be talking about that on the 2:00 show because I've got an idea about how we should play. How about bringing Mullenstein back as a coach? Says David Page. Yeah, but I don't agree with bringing Mullenstein back. I think he talks a good game, but I wouldn't bring him back. Why would you bring Mullenstein back? It's the same as Mike Phelan. What's he doing in the modern game at the moment? Where's he coached recently in the last 3 or 4 years? We don't need to keep going for people who've been at the club in the last 20 years, whether it's an ex-player or an ex-coach. Why not go and get a coach who's at Leipzig, or go and get a coach who's at Dortmund, or go and get a coach who's at Sevilla, or go and get a coach who's at Leicester or at Everton, who's actually in the game, who can show you their CV and go, look, I coached this team in the last 2 years and this is what they're doing and this is how we're playing and this is how I envisage it and this is how I train and this is how I want players to play. You know, I want specialists. I want a specialist director of football. I want specialist coaches to support Solskjaer, but we seem to surround him, and he might have a big part in that, with, what is in effect inexperience, learning on the job. To be a little fair to Carragher, it was Gary Neville who prepared a dossier about how bad De Gea is and doesn't command his box, a handful of historical stats to back himself up, says Nick P. Well, I don't know. All I saw is that Carragher was saying that he should be dropped for 12 games, and I like Carragher as a pundit, but like me and like you, he can say things that I think are a load of bollocks, and I just don't think it does us any favours to be going in on David De Gea again. And also, does it not come across now? I thought it was scapegoating last week, but does it not come across as scapegoating now when he's just saved us a point against West Brom and he was man of the match, and yet the day after they're talking about dropping him? Is that, that would be like Scott McTominay after the Leeds game where he played brilliantly well, and then the next day me coming on the show and going, he needs to be dropped, he ain't good enough. It's just not right, is it? It stinks of an agenda. And look, I don't rate McTominay as a CDM, but I never would have said that after the Leeds game because he played really, really well. So to be coming out 24 hours after De Gea played really well and was man of the match as far as I'm concerned, and say he needs to be dropped, this is now becoming targeted, very targeted agenda by certain people in the media, and I don't get it, but they're definitely going for him, and I don't know why. The English media want De Gea dropped because they want Henderson in the English squad. Exactly, I think that might be it, Victor. You said once, why should we buy mediocrity, but then stands true with Maguire. He ain't a Man United standard centre-back. He couldn't tie Vidic's laces, says Chilled Aussie. Iceman and the fridge out. Leicester is better without Maguire, and so will we be. Martial is our Coutinho. I love him, but Mason should be behind Cavani. We have to be ruthless, absolutely ruthless, says T-Rex. Go get it. And Karen, welcome to the members club of the United Stand. Thank you for joining. I've always said we need to be ruthless. You need to be ruthless and aggressive, and that's throughout your whole club. Every decision's got to be for the betterment of Manchester United. You can't make decisions about favouritism. You can't make decisions because you like someone. You've got to be ruthless and you've got to be aggressive. You've got to be ruthless in letting people go and not picking them. You've got to be aggressive in bringing people into the club as well. We need to see Diallo and Fernandes together. Lethal, says Elliot Fernandez. And will you be happy with Kounde, Trippier and Pogba staying yet going for free the next summer? Is that a good summer window or still not enough for you? It still doesn't solve the CDM issue though, Salah, does it? That's the problem. Harry Gordon, Neville was right about Lindelof. He's intelligent, a great player with someone fast and strong like Van Dijk. Maguire is slow, bad defender and scared. Well, Harry, we've been talking about this on this channel collectively for months. Months and months and months. And Slow Sports News seem to be catching up with it 6 months later. And I don't know why it takes people so long to notice what is blindingly obvious. But how many times have you and we spoken about Maguire and Lindelof being an absolute nightmare as a partnership? Months we've been talking about it, and now they're acting on mainstream media like they've invented the wheel. Oh, you know what? I think the problem might be Maguire and Lindelof, Gary. Yeah, you don't say. Bloody hell. You know, it's been obvious for a very long time, and they're finally starting to figure it out. And they are a bloody nightmare. And I agree. I think Lindelof with the right centre-back would be a good centre-back partnership. And I think Maguire with Bay or a proper centre-back would be a good partnership. But together, as I said many times, it's like Ronald McDonald managing a cow. It ain't going to work. And it's not. Marrying a cow. Neville said yesterday we need to buy a goalkeeper if we want to win the league. He said De Gea's had a good game against West Brom, but wouldn't be his first choice. Well, I didn't know that, Robert. I didn't know Gary Neville had got involved in it as well. But again, I would say the same. And I haven't heard Gary Neville say it, so I'm talking totally. And it's dangerous for me to do this because I don't know whether he said that, but I will trust what's been said. If he has said that, then he's as bad as Carragher. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to go after David De Gea. But it's an opinion, and I respect the opinion. But We don't need a world-class goalkeeper. We've got a world-class goalkeeper and we've got a very good understudy goalkeeper. That is not an area Manchester United need to improve. It's an area they need to manage. They don't need to improve it. If there are areas that David de Gea needs to work on it in training. Maybe give Henderson a game. But the reality is, David de Gea is not... We were top of the league in January with David de Gea. We're not top of the league now because of... I mean, this is the hypocrisy of it. This is why I think it's scapegoating of David de Gea. We were top of the league with David de Gea. David de Gea made us relevant for 4 or 5 years a few years ago. But let's live in the now. We were top of the league with David de Gea in goal. David de Gea has not had a bad season. He had a bad game against Everton and suddenly... I'm surprised they've not blamed him for COVID. Like, he's getting the blame for bloody everything that's nothing to do with him. We were top of the league with David de Gea in January. We're now not top of the league. Why are we not top of the league? Because if you're going to tell me we're not top of the league anymore because of David de Gea, then I'm going to call you the biggest bullshitter in the world. We're not top of the league anymore because we've taken 6 points from 15. And most of that is down to not making substitutions, not changing the team up, picking the wrong players time and time again, and also defensive errors from the midfield and the centre-backs, not just in conceding goals, but in not moving the ball quick enough to our attackers so that they can score goals. David de Gea has got sod all to do with why we're not top of the league. So to come out and say we can't win the league with David de Gea in goal, in my mind, is complete and utter nonsense. Because the facts are there that we were top of the league with De Gea, and it's not him while we're not top of the league. Nonsense. Absolutely bloody nonsense. And you know what? I said it last week and I'll say it again now. To me, it just feels like for some reason he's being scapegoated, and there is I hope Ollie's wise to what's going on with David De Gea in the media, because it's a bloody disgrace. And he'll probably get asked about it tomorrow as well. Hi Mark, what would you say is a realistic, respectable return of points over the next 4 league games? Oh, so what have we got in the next 4 league games? We've got Newcastle, Chelsea, Man City, and is it West Ham? I think we'll do well to take 5 points. We need to take 9. We need 3 wins out of the next 4 games, because otherwise we're going to be in real problems behind us. But I worry about Chelsea and I worry about Man City, because the way we're playing at the moment, they'll wipe the floor with us. We should get Basuma over Rice. He would be cheaper and his defensive stats are better. I like Basuma, Daniel Kirk. I really like Basuma, and he would be cheaper. So you know what? I'm more than happy to say get Basuma for 40 million, get Kounde for 60 million, and then, you know, if you want to try and get Sancho for 60 million and spend 160 million, well, you know, we're going to have to sell a few players to do that. But yeah, there we go. Do you think we can play Bruno and McTominay as our centre midfielders and someone like Matic behind them at CDM? If Matic can find some form, it would be perfect to do that. But we'll see. Arsenal probably will get Basuma. I mean, they've bought so many bloody midfielders, Arsenal, over the years. I mean, they've only just got Partey. He would have been all right. Bobby says Rice is overrated. I'd prefer to get Ndidi. Look, you can continue the chat on the United Stand Flick app. The link's in the video description on Apple and Android. Really enjoy the links in the video description for that. Nearly 15,000 now on there. It's free. Chat away 24/7. There's polls and quizzes on there as well. But look, we've got the preview for the Europa League game against Sociedad on Tuesday. Sorry, it's on Thursday, but we're doing it at 2 o'clock today. Got lots of things I want to talk about that. You might be quite interested about how I would line up and what I would do. And I hope Solskjaer does some of that at least. Please smash a like on the video. Subscribe, bottom right hand corner. And good show. Some really good topics in there. That's probably one of the better morning shows we've done in a long time. It almost felt like an 8 o'clock show. So really enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your comments. Lots to get you thinking this morning. You know, Ollie about coaches, the De Gea scapegoating again. You know, should we be going for Sancho or should we be focusing on centre back and midfield? Lots to get you thinking. Thanks for watching. Speak to you soon.